time, we've been offering you processes to assist you in sharpening your focus and being more deliberate about what you think. And we see that many of you are getting very good at thinking on purpose, and even better at noticing when you're not where you want to be. And so we offer you things like this deck of affirmation cards. There are a few of them to assist you in coming into better alignment. So let's say these cards are money and the law of attraction. Really brilliantly written. We wrote them. And it is the best of infinite intelligence, all focused on the subject of money, abundance. So let's say that you've been focusing on where you are, and you've been feeling the strain of the economy, and you don't have as much money as you want, not nearly so. And so you've decided that you are going to take the bull by the horns and you're going to do something about your physical condition. So from your place of real worry, from your place of near depression, or from your place of anxiety or fear or even anger about your financial condition, you buy these brilliant cards and you decide that you are going to, from where you stand, improve your vibration relative to money. So you begin. I am the creator of my own life experience. Alrighty then. Whatever I desire, I can acquire. Who writes this stuff? I am the attractor of my every experience. Well, that sucks. I can always tell a different financial story. I can tell a different financial abundance story. Yes, I certainly can. Whenever I'm feeling good, I'm attracting good. So it doesn't go all that well, does it? When you want something, but you're currently not a vibrational match to what you want, the harder you try, the worse you feel. Have you ever had someone who was very smart about something that they believed, and they're having a conversation with you and you disagree, and the surer they are and the stronger they are and the better points they make, the more you dig in, sure that they are wrong and that you are right. In other words, you just sort of dig in to where you are in a sort of defensive thing, and that's what happens to you. In other words, law of attraction is feeding back to you more thoughts that are like the thoughts that you've been thinking. And just because the habit of thought that you've got going on is defying who you really are and what you really want, you can't badger yourself, you can't motivate yourself, you can't effort yourself, you can't make the improvement, you can't buck your own current. So it sounds a little futile. Well, Abraham, where do I go if I'm where I don't want to be and an affirmation doesn't help? And we say, well, it's the way you're using the affirmation. This is something that most people don't realize that we so want to awaken within you here today. If you will do 100% of your affirming from inside the vortex, you will begin to notice that from inside the vortex, when you practice affirming, when you script or imagine, when you milk being in the vortex, what happens is you develop this vibrational habit that eventually becomes more and more consistent until it becomes a chronic habit of thought. And that's really all a belief is. You can train yourself to be in the vortex more, but we just want to say to you, don't try to do it from outside the vortex. We've been saying to you for a long time, just reach for the best feeling thought that you can find. And we've watched so many of you offering so much effort, you're almost afraid of your own thoughts. We've done such a good job of convincing you that your thoughts equal your point of attraction that many people are applying for lobotomies. We just want you to take a softer approach to all of this and realize that your natural state of being is to feel good. Watch the little ones. Watch little kids, how unwilling they are to follow your train of thinking when you're pointing out to them how inappropriate they are. They won't look you in the eye. They don't want to listen. Sometimes they'll even cover their ears. If you ask them, why did you do that? They'll say, I forgot. In other words, they are not interested in practicing that outside the vortex stuff. Not at first anyway. You sort of wear them down in time. But we're wanting to convince you that since the vortex takes you in often, and you know how when you feel that little lift, sometimes it's only there for a moment. Sometimes you can count them on one hand in the last 6 months, but there are many, many, many opportunities if you will begin to watch for them. Sometimes a little piece of music gives you that lift for a moment. Sometimes it's a memory of something that happened that was so sweet, and just for a moment before you ponder it too fully and kill it with your negative thoughts, you're in the vortex. So we're just encouraging you to feel for those in the vortex moments and then do your best to milk the moment from inside the vortex. And so just follow us conceptually here. If you've awakened and you're feeling pretty good, or someone has complimented you, or even better, you've just complimented someone. In other words, you're having one of those in the vortex moments and you're aware of it, and then you look at your affirmation card. Rather than complaining, I will focus on positive aspects. That makes perfect sense from inside the vortex. It even feels possible from inside the vortex. I can set my own standards for financial well-being. I like the sound of that. The physical me is materialized spirit. That's sweet. Might read the other side of that one. My what is need not influence my what is becoming. Ooh, possibilities. It feels so different when you're in the vortex. It feels so different to affirm from inside the vortex. No effort. It's just ease and flow. Because from inside the vortex, the current is there. Inside the vortex, there's no resistance. There's no tug of war going on within you. Inside the vortex, you're one stream. Inside the vortex, you are materialized spirit. Inside the vortex, you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, sources flowing through you. And as you use your conscious mind to affirm, to consciously affirm, make statements of desire, count your blessings, look for positive aspects, get on rampages of appreciation, think about how life is and how it's becoming. As you do that from inside the vortex, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more, what begins to happen is you begin to develop this chronic point of attraction so that annoying things can't find you not nearly so often. It just gets easier and easier and easier. But in the acknowledgement that I'm getting what I'm vibrationally aligned with, even that is helpful. In other words, if you will own it, if you don't feel good and you attract ornery people and you say, well, I'm a match to you, so welcome to my party. It's better than saying, I don't know how you got here, what are you doing here?
Right.
In other words, own it. At least accept responsibility.
Perfect.
Because we want you to focus upon these vibrational rendezvous points where people are buzzing around you and they've all got their vibrational variety show going on. And you have a particular vibration that's active, which makes you line up with the part of them and 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 the part of them that's active in you. Have you noticed?
Mm-hmm.
You noticed that some days everybody's just rude? Odd, isn't it? Have you noticed some days that people are just really helpful? In other words, you have so much more influence over what comes round you. And as you start noticing it, then you begin to realize that as you tend to your vibration, instead of worrying about what vibrations that others have, if you tend to your vibration and deliberately dominate your vibration by putting into the foreground something that feels really good, and the way we would do that, we would go to sleep with an intention to bask in something that is easy to bask on. Esther focuses upon her pillow. She got this new pillow, which she really, really loves. She carries it with her everywhere she goes. And the first night Jerry says, I love you, honey. And Esther said, I love my pillow. In other words, it was the most important thing for several nights. She just focused upon that perfectly contoured, wonderfully smelling, perfect in every way for her pillow. In other words, the pillow has never been bad to her. The pillow has never sent her a scathing email. That pillow has never let her down. In other words, it's just this neutral zone that was easy for her to focus upon its positive characteristics. So bask your way to sleep. Focus upon the deliciousness of the fabric against your skin. Just bask yourself to sleep. And in the morning when you wake up, lie there with an attitude of appreciation for a little while. And just those two deliberate functions will get you up on the right foot of vibration, where it is then logical that of all of the variety show that was there before, your likelihood of rendezvousing with something better feeling than usual is now certain. So now you rendezvous with something better and you feel a little better. You see, the reason we are enjoying this conversation is because you have all of these potentially active. In other words, if you've been complaining about someone pretty recently, that's a potentially active vibration. If you've been worried about the oil spill, that's a potentially active vibration. If you've been basking about something that you are enjoying, that's a potentially active vibration. So now you're walking out, you're not a pure vibration, you're not really only in sync with your source energy, you've got a whole lot of potentially active vibrations going on within you, which means there are a lot of potentially active rendezvous points around every corner where you go, because all this stuff's active within you, or could potentially be. You see, you haven't practiced yourself way over there. You've practiced yourself sort of all over the place. So almost anything could happen in the beginning of this. And so maybe it's something that doesn't please you. Now the question is, what do you do next? So you rendezvoused with something that doesn't please you. Do you say, oh, of all this variety show that was potentially possible, you came forward and I don't like you so much, so I'm just going to not talk about you. I'm not going to push against you. I'm not going to have a conversation when I get to work about you. I'm going to let you fade further into the background, but in order to do that, I've got to bring something else into the foreground, because nothing goes into the background until something else comes into the foreground. So now, if you try to find something positive about that, you probably won't. It'll probably just amplify its negative to you. But you might focus on how good that pillow was the night before. In other words, as you choose something else, then something else comes into the foreground. Now, you are more deliberate. You have more definiteness of purpose than you did just before. You've got a better handle on your vibration than you did just before. You are more determined than you were just before. And now a whole other set of potentially active things marches forward, while the formerly set of potentially active things marches backwards. Are you getting the sense of this? Your point of attraction has shifted, and now a whole different spectrum of a whole different set of personality traits, maybe even a whole different set of people, is now available for your rendezvous point. So now you're moving through your experience, and there you are. You're percolating that vibration. You're sending it out to the universe. The law of attraction is lining up things that match what's active within you. So now something else comes forward, and you get to decide, is this good feeling enough for me? Should I stop and pause and make it even more active? Or is that yet another thing that I would just as soon marches into the background of my vibration? And what would I like to bring more further forward? You're following? Until day by day, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You begin to deliberately, on subject after subject, state your preferences by, better said, practice your preferences by deliberately focusing, by having conversations with yourself about them, until before you know it, you're walking through this life experience, and only the brightest, clearest, nicest, potentially creative rendezvous points are even shown to you. People who watch you say, were you born with a golden spoon in your mouth? Were you blessed with, how does this happen? Do we really have equal access to the vortex? You seem like you're getting more than your fair share of good stuff from the vortex. Do we really have equal access to the vortex? Because your life sure goes better than mine. And you could say, and they might hear it and they might not, I practiced myself here. I, little by little, brought to the foreground more good-feeling things, and just let the not good-feeling things decompose from inactivity in my vibration.
Perfect.
It is.
Thank you.